Hey gang, good to have you here. My name's Dan, and I started this painting last Thursday evening. This is now Monday. Um, Today was one of those days where I thought, man, at the end of the day, I'll go, now, what did I do? I've been working for 6.5 hours now and just started painting about 20 minutes ago. And what was that other 6 hours about? Well, I'll give you a quick review just for fun. So I've done a whole bunch of things. One is good morning, Mark. I touched up that painting, signed it, painted the edges, and put a wire on it. And then I touched up and, no, I didn't touch up. I'm touching up now. I painted the edges and put a wire on this one. And that painting over there on my dining room table, which sometimes doubles as a workbench, painted the top and the bottom and put a wire, and am in the process of repairing a hole got in the canvas last Wednesday. And in addition to that, I repaired with epoxy, repaired my palette. I plugged in all my electronics to get them. Anyway, just a long, ridiculously long list of little irritating tasks that needed to be done before I could start painting, and all of which kind of are nobody ever sees, just till now that I've showed you guys. Anyway, so I've been hard work all day and doing infrastructure. So finally, I'm down to painting, and that's a lot more fun. Okay, let me show you what I'm doing here. This is a commission piece, 36 by 60 inch painting. You can go back and if you want, watch me do this. Daily Art Adventure 343, I believe. I was painting in downtown Raleigh. Started this on plein air. I am fortunate to have a number of photographs. This is the main photograph I'm going by, and then this is a number of details to help me with different kinds of things, like the shapes of cars, and so on and so forth. Just different details. So before I brought you in today, I glazed the entire canvas, mostly warm, just warm tones, and then did a tiny bit of dark details, not much, just a tiny bit of dark details here and there. And now I'm doing, as you can see, now I'm back to doing light details. So the painting is 90% finished, and I like it really well. The danger at this point is that I start fiddling. Do you know that word? The danger is that I start fiddling with it. And so I'm going to try really hard not to get fiddly. But there's a lot that needs to be done. I'm starting over again today, right up here at the focal point. Where this street fades essentially into just a glow. And again, I think, hello, Shauna. And I think you can see, let me see if I can get you a little bit more direct. I can do this, but then of course I will, forgive me, hang on a second. I will be in your way a lot more when I move you over there, but that's a better view. So there you go, just trying to convey, obviously, a street full of traffic at dusk, city street full of traffic. It really, it's a beautiful scene. It's kind of funny. We Westerners in modern society, we are so accustomed to seeing, traffic lights, and most of the time they're pain. When we see traffic lights, that means we're stuck in traffic, and so we automatically get grumpy. Whereas if we could try to look at this scene in front of us through unjaundiced infant or toddler eyes, we would be every bit as bedazzled as a little older child, say, is by Christmas. Do you follow me? The lights on our city streets are gorgeous. It's just unfortunate that as adults, we tend to associate those lights with rush hour, irritating drivers, pollution, the end of the world, stuff like that. All of which I preach this to myself often, that grumpy adult attitude, completely unnecessary. All that grumpiness. In fact, a couple of years ago, I not only was it trafficy, but I pulled up to a stoplight in the rain. So I'm just sitting there in the rain, a ordinary, old white work van, not unlike the van that I drive these days. A white van to my right, and a Jeep of some kind in front of me, and taillights in my windshield. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, dang, this is beautiful. So I whipped up my phone, took a bad snapshot right through the windshield, and went home and did a beautiful painting of traffic in the rain. That sort of started. I've since that time I've taken a number. I haven't done any or many paintings of it, but I've taken a number of photographs now over the last several years of scenes just like that. Just sitting. Think about it. Red lights, bright red lights. What infant wouldn't be just thrilled sitting in a traffic light? Red lights and green lights and white lights. What I'm trying to get at is if we can just see the world the way an uncorrupted child sees it, we're a lot more likely to see the beauty in it. And by the way, yes, somebody bought that painting. It didn't hang around too long before somebody, thank goodness, somebody agreed with me, saw the beauty in that scene, and said, I want that hanging on my wall. So, from my point of view, it ended very happily with my traffic in the rain painted. Now it hangs on somebody's wall. That's a fun development. Anyway, so here I am again, painting a street full of traffic. And I contend that if we can get our grumpy adult brain out of the way, we'll do this beautiful. And I don't think anybody will have trouble. I don't think many people will have trouble seeing that beauty in this painting. Uh-oh. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Ian, for letting me know about the bad sound. The sound might be better now. I'll just have to speak up a little bit, and then we're going to pick up more extraneous noises around the house. And we do have young children in the house, so extraneous noises are part of the business these days. I don't know if you could hear. So I was talking, and you're getting bad reflection because my painting is very glossy, and there are windows behind me. So it's great light for painting, not such great light for broadcasting. So I'm sorry about that, you guys. So once again, with a painting like this, one of my, I suppose, esoteric, tending toward esoteric psychological objectives is to help other human beings lift up their heads, lift up their eyes, and see the beauty of the world around them. Many people, and I feel real bad for people who've been ruined in this way, they feel like they can only see beauty if it's nature. Like they consider humanity to be a blight on the planet, which is tragic. So there's way more than, in other words, some people have to see a mountain stream and a waterfall and a deer and a bunny and flowers to think a scene is beautiful, when in fact a cityscape like this is beautiful as well, just a different kind, different flavor, if you will, of beauty, beautiful nonetheless. So I'm trying to not don't let myself start overdrawing, or this painting could take me hours to finish, and it would be not good hours, it would be overworked hours. So I'm trying really hard to keep myself painting like a painter and not get tight. My left hand, painting with my left hand actually helps in that regard. Helps keep me, I think, in the left side of my brain. And I'm working at the focal point and working out from there is my strategy with this particular painting. Mixing up some colors, trying to get kind of a neutral brown. Brown is when I say the word brown, the connotation is wrong. So I would not want them to look at these strokes I'm putting around now and say, ooh, brown paint. If they say that, I've not done my job right. It's actually a very dull, mousy gray, but it's the color that I want to indicate the farthest away buildings, way back there in the haze of the evening. So I'm trying to get very neutral, very, very neutral tones on my brush. Let's try that. Yeah, that'll work. And now, quick word about so I'm painting hazy distance, right? You might think then that the best way to paint haze is to simply put down some paint and then just fuzz it, grab any kind of brush or even my finger like I did a moment ago, and just make it all fuzzy. That would be the most logical, if you will, way to achieve soft, fuzzy edges in the distance. Are you with me? Just to create a mess and leave it fuzzy. The problem with that is that our eyes, again, using that terminology, so you don't think it's a matter of, well, that's your opinion. No, what I'm trying to say things right now that are beyond mere opinion or taste. Our eyes don't like that scumbled texture. Um, I hope that sounds sort of strange. If it sounds strange to you, you are paying attention. Our eyes, oops, I'm almost missing you there. Our eyes just don't like, it looks like a mess when you just fuzz stuff out. So you can use that fuzzing technique to achieve the value and the color that you want in any area of your painting. Are you with me? You can use that fuzzing technique. Pick up a fan brush and fuzz it, or a mop, or any dry brush. That's called scumbling, because that's the sound it makes when you do it. Scumble, scumble, scumble. All right. You can use that technique to get the colors and the values where you want them, or pretty close. But then you must come back with real paint and create pleasant brush strokes. In fact, here, I'm going to do something like that right now. So I'm going to blend the color that I just put on, a little bit lighter. I'm going to blend it up into the sky. And if you can't, if the viewer can't see it, we're okay. And we almost can't see that. But that's a cheat. So what I've done is created a fade, but now I want to come back and do just very subtle brush strokes on top of that. We, human beings, we like to see brush strokes. We do not like to see ugly brush strokes. And the scumbling technique is essentially ugly. So you can use it as the artist to get, like I'm doing right here, to get the color you want, but then you need to follow up with what I just called a moment ago, real brush strokes. See, I'm just using a soft synthetic brush to scumble, and then I'm going to come back and do a tiny bit of brushwork on top of that. Now, I don't think I've got the right color. No, sorry, hang on just a second. And it's actually to my advantage if some of those brush strokes that I put on right now are slightly different in slightly different color. That's called broken color. Some people call it that. Same value. Broken value is another issue, and broken value works too. But right now I'm doing broken color. Our eyes get a kick out of that. Variety is. If you wonder what is a good brushstroke, what the number one characteristic of a good mark is variety. I keep doing the same thing. I just get higher and higher in the sky, which is a valid approach. By the way, skies are, let me talk about skies for just a minute. Skies are tricky in this regard. Okay, here's a universal rule. Lights first, darks last. You with me? I'm sorry. I say this so often. I said it just exactly backwards. Ignore that. Here's the truth. Darks first, lights last. Okay, whew, some of you are going, what? Okay, darks first, and this is not just a Dan Nelsonism. This is a if I may, this is a Kevin McPherssonism, and everybody else. And this is a Rembrandtism, so to speak. Everybody knows you put on the darks first, then you put the lights on top of the darks. And again, some beginner painters, now, oh, I don't want to get all philosophical on you. I'll get this philosophical. Many people that are struggling and sweating and straining to earn a MFA, a Master of Fine Arts degree. That means they've already got probably a BFA, and they're continuing. Their goal is not beauty, but their goal is to get through school. And because you can hardly get through any university creating beautiful paintings, that they have to do all kinds of weird things. So whenever I say one of these rules, I'm sure that there's probably a whole gaggle of artists somewhere who have earned their MFA doing the exact opposite of the rules I'm saying. Okay, but they don't count because they're not artists. They are propagandists who are using art as their tool. Okay, that's as philosophical as I'm going to get. So when you're doing sky, so these are the rules. MFA students do not count. When you're doing a sky, very often you'll start at the top of the sky. Let me expand that. You'll start at the top with a color blue, or you'll start down here, light, light, and then get darker and darker and darker as you go up. The problem with that is you're doing the reverse order. Let me say that again. Many times the easiest way to do a sky is to start at the horizon and go up, start light and go dark. The problem that you're reversing the universal rule, darks first, lights last. But sometimes you can do dark and then come down lighter. That's great. But sometimes you go this way, like I'm going right now, starting here and going up this way, getting darker and darker and darker and darker as I get toward the higher part of the sky. Sometimes you have to do it that way, like I'm doing right now. What you do in that case is, so you've got dark paint on top of light paint. Are you with me? Because you put this down, then you put this down, and it's slightly darker, and it's on top. It overlaps the lighter stuff. You with me? And again, sometimes you have to do it that way. The solution then is to go ahead and finish light to dark, but after that, then you come back and do just a little bit of touch up with lighter highlights coming back down, and then you're done. I don't know if you caught that or not. I hope you did. In other words, sometimes in order to effectively paint a sky, a believable sky, you need to do it twice. Light to dark, and then after that, little bits and details, dark to light. I'm going to leave that at that. I'm trying to decide if I need to do any more. Yeah, I do a little bit. This is a common trick I use, by the way, also in doing skies, come in a twilight sky in particular, do some fairly abstract, I just missed that. Yes, Heather, that's right. In watercolor, a lot of what I say that does not apply to watercolor. Although the overlap is, how it does overlap with watercolor, is that if you when in oil and acrylic, when you must put dark on top of light, you make sure that it's transparent, like watercolor. And then the viewer, don't mind it so much. You still come back in oil and acrylic and do little details of light after that, but transparent. Yes, right. So all that stuff about darks first, lights last, that does not apply to watercolor. And I actually have done more years of watercolor painting than I have of oil painting. About 30 years of watercolor and just 15 years of oil painting. But most of my watercolor was as an illustrator, so not quite the same. And again, I know you guys are getting a terrible glare there. I'm sorry about that. So you can hardly even see what I'm doing up here. I'm just trying to do some real subtle clouds. Subtle, subtle. I do not want a lot of energy. I don't want a lot of attention going up there to that part of the sky. Okay, but I am going to stop that sky for now. Let's come back down here to these buildings. The hazy, and working my way forward on this hazy street. So I'm trying to mix up some colors that once again, hazy, distant buildings. One of the artists that comes to mind who does this so well, if I can remember his name, it'll come back to me in a second. G. Harvey. Look up the letter G. Harvey. G. Harvey. He does this distant buildings in particular. And he achieves the fuzzy blended distance not by scumbling his brushes, not by going but by applying fairly thick paint in you might be wondering then, well, how can it be fuzzy if you are applying thick paint? And the answer is quite simple. I alluded to this last week one time. Let me repeat it again. Everything in the distance has to be soft edges, right? Right? Okay, but the formula, the recipe for softness, soft edges, is twofold. One is the obvious fuzziness of the edge. That's obvious, right? If you want a soft edge, you make it fuzzy, correct? But there is another element, another issue at work when you're trying to do fuzzy edges, and it is this: contrast. So all of these, there's a lot of, actually technically, and I don't know how close I can get you into that, technically a lot of hard edges in here. But because the values are all so close, the color is so close to the color next to it, that our eye turns it into a soft edge. Does that make sense? So there's two ways to get soft edges, quote unquote soft edges. One is to literally make a soft, fuzzy edge. The other way is to keep the colors and the values so close that our eyes turn it into softness, if I can use that term. Whoops. I do not want to answer that door. Oh, but I've got to. Sorry. Good question, Heather. Can you post links here? That is a very good question. I'm not sure. I'd like to know that. I'd say go ahead. You can't try it in the comment section, Heather. I don't know if you're still listening or not. If you're listening yet, thanks guys for hanging in there. But for that interruption, is a sweet interruption. We've got a lawn service, and my neighbor 2 doors down, he's the manager of the lawn service. So just as a courtesy, he was coming by and walking through our yard and talking about what his guys are going to come back and do. So that was very nice of him. The joys of home ownership. All of a sudden I looked at this tree up here with fresh eyes. Like, ooh, sky dots. Some of you have been with us for a while. I think Toby, I saw you on earlier. That was a Tobyism, wasn't it? If you do sky holes poorly, they turn into sky dots. Not a happy situation. It doesn't look like a tree because it's got dots on it. Whew. Okay. Uh, um, okay, I guess I'm just going to continue this march forward, and I'm going to hang up on you guys pretty soon because I think this is going to get a little bit monotonous because I'm doing such sort of subtle stuff. But I think I'm just going to continue to move out from this focal point, move out in a like the rings of a bullseye. I started at the bullseye, like the rings of a target. I start at the bullseye and move outward and try to stay abstract. Keep doing the magic of abstraction. Do not slip into anything close to tongue painting. Are you with me? I have discovered in myself, in a painting, any one given painting, that anytime if I start going down the road of, again, what I call tongue painting, over tightness, over fussiness, once I start down that path on that painting, it is hard as heck to get off that road. You just keep going, and it goes like from bad to worse. Where once you start down that path, so man, I've learned that lesson. I hope I haven't learned it for the last time, but I've learned it the hard way. Man, don't start going down that path of fussiness. And again, painting with your left hand helps a little bit keep you from, and of course when I say left hand, for you left-handers, I mean your right hand, painting with your weak hand, forcing yourself to use your opposite hand helps a little bit steer clear of too much detail. It's not a guarantee, but it helps a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to stop my broadcast. I'll be painting for a while, and I'll bring you in later. My work this week is quite cut out for me. Tomorrow I'll be doing illustrations, but otherwise I have to finish 2 large commissions that I started last week. One painting of the school that I did last Wednesday, and then this one I start on Thursday. I need to both have them both done in the next couple days, so that I can get paid. Getting paid is good, and illustrations tomorrow. So I'll be busy, and I'll hopefully be able to have lots of opportunity for broadcasting. And I hope many of you will join me. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And if you know some artist friends that ought to be watching, you think they would enjoy it, please let them know. Share. Okay? Thanks so much. I'll be back later on today. Hey gang, I just want to bring you up to date really quick on this painting that I've been working on today, off and on. Not real intense. I've had way too many interruptions, but just want to give you an update and then close out this live broadcast. So this area of the painting right here is mostly done, not quite. And I've got quite a bit of work to do. And again, I'm still trying not to get too bogged down in too much detail. I'm pretty happy with the way that street full of traffic looks. That's a real pretty street, including a fire truck about halfway up the road. You see that? Anyway, this is me. And thank you so much for watching. I hope some of this was entertaining and beneficial. And I will certainly be broadcasting tomorrow. In the meantime, tonight, I'm going to go upstairs and do some illustration. And I'll bring you on that tomorrow. Thanks for watching.